Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Powerful Man
Uh,
Show. I am your host, Doug
uh,
Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Tim, we're going to jump right in it today. I just got off a great conversation with an amazing man involved in the movement. And he's going through a little predicament that I think a lot of men fall into. And so let me describe the scene for you, Tim, and I'd like to get your 2 cents on it, and I'll definitely share mine. So what's happening is he's with a woman and he's doing absolutely everything in his power to set the scene for intimacy. Now, as far as he can tell, the relationship's great. Everything's good. They're on track. And when I say on track, there's no real hiccups in the relationship. They feel really close to each other. They have a plan to continue to continue together indefinitely, as it states right now. And I say that because I know a lot of the men that listen to this program are going through some rough times. This guy's not in that scenario per se, but a rough time for him. And so what's happening is the way he described it to me is in his home, intimacy is far between. And they don't have kids, so there's nothing in there separating them or really stopping them, preventing them, like those not sleeping at night and those 2 a.m. wake up calls that I get, which I can totally relate to. But for him, that's not happening. And finally, his lady said, "Look, yeah, you said you wanted sex. I'll have sex with you." But it wasn't it was more of out of compliance or out of a sense of duty than it was out of passion and a love, right? It really wasn't. He doesn't feel like he's being desired, is what I get out of it. What would you say to a guy it's in a situation like this?
um, yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say to him is do not have sex with her in that place. Like, if you don't feel like she is in it, then do not set a standard where you have sex with her just because it's being offered out of obligation, because that will not end well. That will set a tone for the sexual encounters between you guys to go down a particular path. And then when you try and pull back from that path in a month or two, she'll then say, or she could say, hang on a minute, but over the past few months, we've been having sex. How come you've been having sex with me if you felt that way? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you tell me? So don't go down that path. You get to take a stand and don't do it if you feel like it's off. And to the second point, which feeds into the first, you get to be clear on, well, what's important to you, right? So, for example, with sex, let's just use sex in particular. For me, it's really important for me to be able to feel like Amelia's in it, right? She wants it, she enjoys it, she's present, right? And it's the idea of passion, the idea of sex being a place where you're able to escape to, right? Where you guys can just explore, have fun, and just let go, right? We've all had those sexual experiences where you're just so present and so passionate and charged. I think as guys, that fuels us in such an incredible way. It's that sense of, and I don't mean this as any disrespect to women, but it's a sense of conquering, right? And really providing for your woman sexually. It's very primal for a man. So you've got to know what's important to you within sex in order to be able to then communicate what you want to her as well, right? I've had instances in the past where I just wasn't as turned on. Honestly, at times I was thinking, is there something wrong with me? Like, I should be more turned on. This used to turn me on. Why does this not turn me on anymore? And the reality is, in a long-term relationship, oftentimes what used to work in the beginning often won't work 5, 10, 15 years down the line, right? And therefore, it can be time simply for a deeper level of connection. This is why the men that we led in the Brotherhood retreat in Costa Rica a few weeks ago, we introduced them to erotic blueprints. The erotic blueprints, as if you guys listened to episode number, let me have a quick look here. It was the one where the title was Becoming an Erotic Detective, or what was the title, Doug? Because you did that one.
Yeah, I can almost never remember the titles, my friend.
Here we go. 481, How to Become an Erotic Detective. So, yeah, go listen to that one and you'll get a real good deep dive into what I'm talking about here. But the point is, your erotic blueprint is kind of like your fingerprint. It's unique to you, and it's your blueprint of what you enjoy sexually. Right? There's different types, and there's different gateways to enter each one of the types. So, in a long term relationship, it can often become important for you to understand more deeply what's important to you. So what you could always do is go take the erotic blueprint quiz. There is, if you just Google that online, it'll take you to a test. And that way you can learn what yours is. So the first thing would be to not have sex. The second thing would be to understand what actually is important to you sexually. And then to communicate that. And obviously, when you communicate that, the mistake I have made in the past is sometimes communicating it in a way that didn't always put the other person's mind at ease, right? Because it's important to let the other person know that it isn't that you don't want to have sex with them. It isn't that they aren't good enough or that they don't turn you on or whatever it is. There's a lot of messages that can easily be misconstrued in a relationship. So it's very important when you're communicating this to be very clear that, hey, I love you and I want to have sex with you. And in order, for me to be the most turned on, here's what I'd like to try, or here's what I want, or whatever it is, right? Obviously, it can open up a conversation. This isn't a dictatorship, but you make it very clear that it's not about the other person per se. It's about you and what you enjoy. And I'd start there. That's specifically about the sex piece.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And I told this guy the same thing, but I think it's important for the listeners to understand because it can get misconstrued. There's a difference between the act of sex and then intimacy, right? Having connection, having
Mhm.
in the act of intercourse, but having connection and intimacy. And for most of the men that come through the program, yeah, they want to have sex. They want to have a lot of sex, but they also want connection. They want the intimacy that's there, right? Otherwise, guys typically we turn to porn, right? And do something along those lines. It's quicker, it's easier. You don't have to deal with the hassle or any potential hassles afterward, et cetera, et cetera. And it feels about the same when there's no connection. Now, when there's connection, intimacy, it's a totally different ballpark. Now, this guy I was talking to, he was saying, look, Doug, I'm doing all the right things. In other words, I'm doing the things that the powerful man talks about in terms of setting the scene. He's not walking around the house in his sweats and torn t-shirts. He's taking care of his body. He's working out at the gym. He's eating well. He's doing his morning routine, what we call the alpha rise and shine, as well as the alpha decompression. And I asked him, I said, look, are you courting her? Are you dating her? Are you, flirting with her? And he said, yeah, absolutely. So that's not the issue. And so when he set the scene for me, Tim, he started to talk about how she's kind of letting herself go a little bit. Now, these are my words, not his, but the way he described it, she's no longer really pushing the envelope or taking care of herself the way that she used to, right? And not dressing around him the way she used to. Now, we all went through COVID. We all know how that is when you're all together and you're in the house and it just kind of, you see that same person over and over and over again. And it becomes difficult, right? It becomes more difficult or more challenging, I should say, to create that spice, that newness, that freshness. And this guy works from home. So he's really got to be creative. But so does she, right? She gets some of the onus on her plate. She gets to do it. And so one of the things I was talking to him about is actually sitting down with her and saying, look, you know, I'm human. I'm a man. I'm human. And I get that when polarity is there, I get to do 75%, 80% of the pursuing, right? That's fine, right? But I also want to feel desired. I also want to feel that you want me. And this isn't just an act for you. This isn't just something you're doing because you feel it's necessary or your duty. Because this guy, Tim, doesn't feel that way. That's not the way he's wired. He wants this to be a uh, mutually fun experience, right? Having fun in the bedroom, right? Having fun, desiring the passion, the carnal nature of it. And so I told him that. And then the second thing that I told him is, what if you created a little bit of a challenge in the relationship? Now, so I watched my kids, and it's so interesting. I did this morning, Tim. So I'm making eggs, as you can imagine, in my kitchen. And trust me, this will be relevant. And we get done with the egg carton. Now, it's the classic cardboard egg carton. So I said, we have an island in our kitchen. The kids sit at 2 bar stools and they're sitting there eating their breakfast. And I put it on the egg carton on there and said, hey, will one of you guys run for daddy and go put it by the wood stove? Because I'm going to burn it because I like to burn things. I'm a guy. and neither of them did anything, right, with it. And so I moved the egg carton ever so slightly towards the other one and said, hey, would you go ahead and do this for daddy? As soon as that child put his hand, it's my son, on the egg carton, my daughter went ballistic and wanted to do it. Let me do it. Let me do it. Oh my gosh. And started screaming and yelling. And the reason being is now there's competition. Now somebody else desires the egg carton. This is trash. My son didn't want to do it. My daughter didn't want to do it. But now that my son put his fingers on it, my daughter was going nuts. And guess what my son did? He went berserk too. He wanted to do it for daddy. And they were fighting over the egg carton. Who got to leave their breakfast, get down from the stool, run across our house, and put this in a little basket where I put kindling in. All because now more than one person wanted it and they both knew it. We get to create this dynamic, guys, in our marriages as well. Now, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to go out there and deliberately do something to make your partner jealous or anything along those lines. However, if you're doing those things right in your relationship, other women are noticing you. They just are. It's natural. And for some of you guys, you might live remotely out in the country. Some of you guys, may not be in situations that allow for it as much as you want to. Or maybe you just don't like talking about it because you don't want to make your wife feel bad. And I totally get it. And I'm not suggesting that. So this particular guy, though, is in a situation where I think it would behoove him to inject a little competition, right? This guy is one of those guys that's sitting on top of the food chain. He's on top of the ladder. Great guy. And he gets to let her know that there's somebody else that wants the egg carton. And not that he's going to do anything because he'll never do that. It's not that type of guy. But just letting her know there's a little friendly competition out there, I think would also spur a little reaction. So just like my daughter or my son, when there's somebody else that wants what you have, you step up. You work a little harder. I certainly have in my marriage when I used to work out with my wife at the same gym. When I watched guys checking her out, I was like, oh crap, I got to, I'd be more attentive, right? Because wow, these guys are checking my wife out, right? Or guys going and talking to her. And yeah, it's a little bit of jealousy, but healthy jealousy is what I would say. And it's just a reminder for me more than jealousy of like, hey man, there's other people out there. There are other fish in the sea, so to speak, not only for you, but also for her. And you better keep letting your stock rise.
Good point. Good point. Curious. I mean, I'm guessing there's guys listening to this that are thinking, okay, well, how do I do this? Because I get every relationship's different, right?
Sure.
And also, yeah, for those guys that are thinking, well, how would I do this? I guess you got some ideas.
Yeah. So there's a couple things, right? If your woman is insecure, you got to be very delicate with this, right? To do this. But you can simply drop hints. Like, as an example, if you're working in an office, this guy that I was talking about doesn't, but you can just mention someone's name. Every woman has like a nemesis that's out there that's in your world. They all do. Whoever that person may be, right? That they're watching just to make sure. You can mention that person's name. Now this gets a little devious, right? But like when I go to the gym. So I go to the gym, as you know, Tim, I go 4 days a week and I work out, and I happen to work out in a class environment when I go during those days. And there's often times where women will approach the platform I'm working on and have a conversation, right? Sometimes it's just friendly, but sometimes when someone's flirting with you or asking you questions or making comments about something you've done. Well, a lot of times I won't share those because there's no need, and I don't need to spring jealousy or insecurity within my relationship at this point. However, if I was in this guy's situation, I may share a few of those things. Like, so for example, the other day I was working out at the gym and I happened to have the number one time. CrossFit's a weird thing. I don't want to just talk about CrossFit, but for those that know, I had the number one time in the gym. And two very, 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 very fit and attractive women came up to the platform and started talking to me, and they're giving me high fives and they're chatting. And one in particular was super, super nice to me, let's just say. And I would never do anything, but my wife knows who this person is or knows about this person. And she's very, very attractive. So I would possibly mention, like, hey, I'm making up this up, call this girl Jenny. Like, my wife always asks how my workouts were. I was like, oh, I crushed it. Got the number one time in the gym. That's typically what I would say. Now I might say, I crushed it, got the number one time in the gym. It was so awesome. Jenny even came over to my platform to talk to me and to congratulate me. And we sat and had a great conversation. And I would leave it at that. That's an open loop, right? Like, now my wife's going, what the heck is Jenny coming over to talk to you about? Doesn't she know you're married? What's going on? And so it creates a little bit of the egg carton situation in the relationship, right? Just knowing that Jenny from the gym is coming to talk to Doug, her husband. Wait a minute, what's going on? So that's what I would do. So I'm playing a little bit with this. This gets a little bit into darker psychology, I would say. And it's not something I would use heavily. But in this guy's situation, it wouldn't hurt to inject a little competition. Now, I would also, on the flip side, I would make sure, if I was him, that I'm getting into her world to understand what's going on. Is she going through a little bit of depression? Is she going through a down period? Right? Is there something going on in her world that's causing her to dress more frumpily? So my made up word, to be less likely to feel energetic or sexual. I'm assuming that she has in the past. Now, I don't know that, but I'm assuming she used to be in the past. So has something happened? Now, if none of those things have happened and she's just letting herself go because she's getting lazy, we've all been there, guys, right? But if she's doing it, this could be the spark or the catalyst to help her take better care of herself, right? And again, it's just friendly competition. I'm not going to details. I wouldn't do anything, but I might let my wife know that Jenny came to my platform that day.
Interesting. Yeah, I can definitely see the value for that. So this guy then, 3 things you can do right now.
I'd say the first one is just make sure, double check and check in with his woman to make sure she's not going through something, right? Depression or something else is going on. Is she having bouts of low energy? Like, what's going on in her world? Make sure he's doing that first, right? The first and foremost. The second thing is he needs to switch up his game. So he needs to start dressing a little different around the house, maybe leaving the house a little bit more often, just switching things up, creating some more mystery. Now, maybe he's already doing that. I don't know. But for most of us guys, we fall into routines, and routines are very easy to find into a rut. So much so that my wife can almost tell you what I'm going to do before I even know what I'm going to do, right? We all get there, guys. That's 2. Third, inject a little bit of friendly, healthy competition. Just a little bit, just to let the wife know that the egg carton is desired by more than one person. More than one child now wants the egg carton. Because at the beginning, nobody wants the egg carton because it's always there. But as soon as they realize that somebody else is interested in it, well, a fight goes over the egg carton. And that is a great place to be.
Great advice.
Gentlemen, I'd love to hear what you guys think and give advice to this guy. Please go over to our free Facebook group. Yes, it is free. I know there's a lot of groups out there that charge you money. That's not what we're here for the Facebook group. Go over there and let us know what you would do if you're in this man's situation. And as always, in the moment of insight, take massive action. And we'll see you next time on The Powerful Man Show.